Hi, this is again Volleyball Explained Podcast about the Italian League. After a while, not that short while, actually, we are here again. Nicola, Ronnie, and me, Bogdan. So the so-called Tandata is almost over, almost because some of the teams didn't play all the 11 matches so far. But my first question to both of you is, what are your overall impressions from the league so far?
Nicola, if I can say one thing, Perugia was already the favorite to have a shot at the championship at the end of the season, and they are like convincing everybody with a perfect score. They didn't lose a point yet, and of course, when you have that type of squad, that is basically two teams in one, is easy for them to uh, rotate the players and give rest to the most important pieces like Leon, of course, when he have that concussion, and then you have Semeniuk and Kamil Rilishki, who are the main attackers. Of course, they have also Propet, which is not by any means at the level of Janelli, but is a decent setter, and they can perform all of those rotations. I believe that was the main reason why they upset the wild card to go to the World Championship, because they were confident uh, at this very moment that they can win it without spending too much resources. So, yeah. And the other thing that have been disappointing me is you don't see any other team capable of do a scrap in the armor to this Perugia team. In fact, the second best team is right now Modena, I believe, or Trento,
Yeah,
and they
Modena.
are more like 10 points, 11 points behind. So it will be till the playoff, of course, a league of one, and then we will see if Perugia can this time deliver the championship that his fans want. So that's my introduction speech.
I completely agree with you. Perugia is having the same advantage that LUBE had in the past 4 years. They could basically line up two squad without lowering the level of the game overall, while the other teams are not in that condition, and it's already been shown in some of the games during that season. For example, Trento had to replace Bertoli for a couple of games at the beginning of the season. They lost them. Monza without the setter Cacioppa with Wimmerman, and had to play some games without a starting setter, and also they lost it. But if you think about it, I don't know if Ngapet is having flu in Modena, who's going to play at this role. I mean, they put in Marechal, or if one
Lorenzo
between
Pope.
yeah, or Pope. In Trento, if Lisinac had a headache, who's going to play Der or the other boy Berger? Lube as well. Lube has a group of youngsters that can be consistent for so long, so they have to learn, they have to develop as a team. So Perugia basically is cruising to the end of the season. They could focus on everything else, the Champions League, on the farce of World Champions that is starting right now, or whatever else they want to win. And they have to win everything because the gap is so wide within the league and outside the league. Because if you think that all the Messi Italians teams, let's call it that, trying to chase Perugia, are basically cruising in Europe as well. Trento is on top of his group with Daxa, and Lube is winning without so many concerns only had a bad start against Benfica, but then as well they won every single game in the Champions League. The Sev Cup looked like a training session for both Piacenza and Modena so far. So the other teams are just their worry is how to how to rank from second to the last place that give you the playoffs. But so far everything could happen. But it's also cool. I mean, you look at the standings and then you try to watch a game and you don't know how it's going to end it, except for Perugia and Siena, who just today, a couple of hours ago, has been
Padova.
Yeah. No, Siena has been rolled up by Padova without any answer. So Perugia is clear favorite for winning everything. And I think Siena already booked a ticket for the Serie 2.
Yep. Actually, I believe that the most concerning aspect of this one is that the point difference between the first and the second place between Perugia and Modena is bigger than between the second place and the penultimate, the 11th place. Between Modena and Padova and Taranto, I'm not sure
Siena,
which team is.
Siena.
No, Siena is last.
Is dead last with just 3 points.
I mean, between the second place and the 11th place, the difference now
11.
is 11 points, and between Perugia and Modena is 13, which is a diagnosis. I believe it's not normal. That's why we call this episode "Everyone Beats Everyone Except Perugia," because they have only nothing to lose so far. I don't know how many they didn't lose two sets in one match, and they lost sometimes one set, which is nothing in terms of losing points. The problem is that except this one tendency, I'm not able to see any other. Probably some slight tendencies like Trento playing better since Matej Kaziski started playing only as an opposite, not this rolling system with 3 outside hitters. Some of them, one of them playing as an opposite in the different rotations. Verona is playing much better than the last season. They actually strengthened their squad, and we will talk about this also later. But no real tendencies because, for example, Modena is second, but with 6 wins and 5 losses. This is something which is also very strange, typically when it comes to a standard Italian season. Okay, next one is which team is your positive surprise, or which teams are your positive surprises so far?
I like to watch from time to time Verona because I think from this team will go out to other teams in the future, very prospect and very young talent like Keita, like Mosic, like the Russian guy who name I cannot pronounce well.
Sapozhkov.
It's a very common thing. But I mean, they tend to be sometimes unpredictable. You think they will win easy, and they struggle sometimes. But with versus the big teams, I mean, they give a lot of work to Verona. To LUBE. They beat Trento. They beat Piacenza. The only team that they couldn't touch was Perugia. Because of course they were in their home soil, and Perugia at home is very easy to beat, even a set. I don't know why they drop a set versus Taranto, but I guess they were like thinking already in the World Cup Championship, so it didn't care. But yeah, that team for me, I mean, they have young values, but unlike LUBE, that also have young values, they for me, this group are more talented than the LUBE one. So especially now that Marlon Jan is struggling with a knee chronic injury, and Botolo is unable to at least replicate all that concept that Mangini thought that he could do. So yeah, for me, I like to watch Verona. Very disappointing by Piacenza, at least at this very first half of the season. Of course, they are a new team with new upside hitters, new opposite. The only key remaining is the setter. But even with that, I don't think Brizard has really been connected too well with the middles, with the attackers. So yeah, on top of that, Roberlandi Simon injury, he's back. You don't know when he will come back. I'm happy because another Cuban, Rami Alonso, has been doing well so far, but he is not Simon. He's not put that serve pressure and that scary presence on the net. So yeah, very disappointing by this team of Piacenza. They are not out of playoff contention, but for me, they could do even better.
Yeah, well, basically it. Another surprising team is definitely Cisterna, a team that has been relying pretty well on the connection between Baranovic and Dirlic so far. And also the middle blockers are playing a pretty decent level, and Caliberta is having quite a strong season. So they're also playing for some spots in the ranking, in these fluid rankings that probably they didn't think they could have been fighting for. But on the other side, I'm pretty disappointed by Monza, because even if we take away the injury of Cacioppa and then Zimmerman, who took some games to get in the mood, is a pretty inconsistent game. I watched the last game they played against Modena, and they had some very high moments in the games, but also they made a lot of very stupid mistakes, and they're not consistent, even if they have some very good players, in my opinion, because Daviskiva is keep improving each year. In the middle, they are quite, solid duo like Beretta and Galassi, for example. Grosser is aging, but still could say something on the court. So far, they haven't performed as I was expecting. The other teams, they had moments, they had good games, bad games. So I'm not, disappointed or surprised. Verona, especially with also a player that you probably never liked, Ronnie, I'm talking about Spirito, is having a pretty good season so far, if we compare it with the past two seasons. So yeah, Cisterna as a surprise and Monza as a disappointment for me.
Yeah, actually, you a little bit went ahead of my questions, but that's pretty normal because, of course, positive surprises and negative surprises or disappointments are linked one to each other. But of course, I will repeat Ronnie with Verona, because Verona is improving a lot. Of course, they had these new signings, which are very influential when it comes to the team, as Numori Keita and for example, also Leandro Mosca and Sapozhkov, which is probably the biggest surprise. And a little bit of an interesting story behind Trento's behind Verona's statistics is that I believe we mentioned that even in the first podcast about the Italian league, but also now they are 10th when it comes to reception, but they are able with their great attackers to compensate that. They're pretty high in the ranking when it comes to serve, attack, and blocking. But they are 10th in reception, so they are not the best receivers, but they can compensate in high balls. And this is also due to the very good season, like Nicola said, of Spirito, especially when compared to the last ones. For me, LUBE is also a positive surprise. I really expected that with so many young talent, they won't be able to expand that talent and stabilize when it comes of playing so quickly. But Alex Nikolov is started as an opposite time to time. Now he's playing in his typical position as an outside hitter. Janten Boto and Gabi Garcia substituting Ivan Zaitsev in the opposite position. But so it's really positive for me, not only as a Bulgarian with Alex Nikol, but as a team as a whole. And of course, they have a great setter. They have a great libero, Decheko and Balazzo. When it comes to the disappointments, for sure, a disappointment is Piacenza for I don't know how many seasons in a row with that many great players, but not a team. So they are again bunch of very good players, but not a team with Brizard, Romano, Leao, and Recine, and all of them. When it comes to Siena is interesting case. When I looked to the statistics today, I was shocked to see that actually Siena is the second best receiving team, and they are last. This actually is a proof for the fact that the reception doesn't mean that much when your setter is not the best, when your attackers are not the best, or at least not obligatory the best, but decent in order to score points and win sets and matches, of course. Okay, next topic. Impressive players. Which players impressed you the most since the beginning of the season?
I don't want to say impressed because he's already an established player, even he's only 21 years old. But Micheletto is one of the tools of Trentino to try to make an impact, and he's always improving, even though he has a slow start to the championship with the fatigue of the entire international season, but he's still growing, and I believe he will become better and better with the years. Maybe, who knows, we are talking about the next Bernardi, or one kind of a player, that only comes in 20 or 30 years like Wilfredo Leon did. But one thing is pretty sure, if we will consider the next best player in the world, he is close to be one of those candidates. Of course, Semeniuk, since he get to Perugia, has been helping the team a lot, especially with the rotations of Plonitsky and Leon. He's a big improvement for this team that the previous year didn't have that last touch to win the titles, Yes, the other guys for me are the players of Verona, you name it, Sapozhkov, Mosic, and Keita. For
you can say his name.
Maxi Sapozhkov. Yeah, but when you all those letters, you might think that it's hard to pronounce though. But yeah, that them have been really pretty good. And when you see the ages, you realize that they are very young, even Semeniuk, and you can see they are a transition, a very good generation coming up. Maybe The only thing missing is a young setter, which is not always easy to find. Janelli, he's 25, 26, but who is the next big talent in that position? Maybe we will have to wait some time to see anyone. But I didn't mention the team of Milano, who can I put in the same room as Monza. They have been very disappointed, and the fact that they don't have a second middle blocker to play with right now, I don't know why, and they are using these complex tactics to put two outside hitters playing as middle blockers is like depressing, because you don't put people of 195 to spike in the middle. It's very obvious that they will spike from there, because they tend to do the pre-run, and they got blocked often. So that's one of the reasons this Milano team hasn't been able to win at least 2 more games since their last victory. But I said it all. Micheletto, Semeniuk, and the guys of Verona. Very, very good job from their coaches to keep the momentum and not let's say not lose that quality from a year to another. Of course, my disappointment, I know Nicola maybe don't agree, but what happened with Daniele Lavia since the end of international season is like he realized that he won so much that he doesn't need sometimes to prove something at the club level. And I mean, if Trento is struggling from time to time, it's because their second outside hitter is not doing very well. So even though he can be very good at some games, but I expect more from a guy who was decisive in big games like the World Championship. Yeah, that's it.
Nicola?
Yeah, I completely agree with the list that Ronnie did, especially with those guys that are handling pretty well a new championship like the Italian league, probably the most demanding league in the world. Guys coming from some, how can I say, lower levels like Keita came in Verona and improved the skills. Semeniuk, we all know who that guy is, still is playing at a very, very high level. I admit I didn't know a lot about Sapozhkov, so it was a surprise overall because I'm actually discovering him right now. If we talk about players that have been playing in Italy but they're showing something pretty interesting, I will underline that Romano, despite his first season actually as a starter, he's been pretty consistent as an opposite, and in many games he had to spike some pretty let's say difficult sets because of the spikers were basically offsets, and it was a pretty obvious pass, but still he's not holding back. And Vitelli is having a pretty good season so far for Milano. He's a middle blocker that is always on the brink to go to the next level, but it's you never know when actually he's making that jump. And looking the games of Trento is very impressing me, Laurenzano. I know he was a very talented libero we saw last year in Taranto, but he has the move and the width of a libero that is not just 19 years old, but he looks more expert than its age. When it comes down to Lavia, I agree with Ronnie. And a couple of days ago, in an interview here in Italy, a journalist asked Andrea Zorzi if the fact of winning such a big tournament could have an impact of on the performances of some players, and they were indirectly talking about Daniele Lavia, and he said that it's difficult to handle such an achievement and to be consistent for the month following the victory of a World Cup or an Olympic medal. But I think that the guy will bounce back. I hope it, or Javornok will take his place in the starting lineup of Trento, and so it. I expected a little more so from a player like Krick. I know that is not such a big name, but in the 2 seasons he played in Latina, or Cisterna, call it however you want, he was one of the most solid middle blockers of the league. Now in Modena, his place is being taken alternative by Sanguinetti or Bossi. So that's the unimpressive player for me.
Okay, you mentioned most of them, but I will add some data because the numbers of Keita in attack are huge. It's 62%, which is amazing. Sapozhkov, taking into account also that he's playing as an opposite, is 55. And in my list is also Laurenzano, because we should take into account that it's very rare occasion for so young libero to play on that high level, because he's only 19 years of age. He was born 2003. And also I could put Adis Lagumdzija, even though he's already a consistent player, but the statistics when it comes to him, it's interesting in the fact that he received almost 400 balls for 11 matches. That's almost 40 balls per game, which is really a lot. And he has a successfulness of 49%, and a little bit of a bias when it comes to Alex Nikolov, because Alex was included in the team very gradually, started playing as an opposite, as I mentioned. Now he received a chance, and he's using this chance to play as an outside hitter. Yes, he's 19 years of age. He's very young. But we should also mention here that he came from a totally different championship. Some people are a little bit overhyping the NCAA, the American college league, taking into account, actually not taking into account, but considering that it's a high level. No, it's not. Actually, I asked
women maybe, but the women's sector maybe.
Yeah, probably, but I asked some Bulgarian players who played there, and all of them told me that the teams there are on the level of the 4th, 5th, 6th ranked team in the Bulgarian league, which is actually saying by itself what the level there is. So, and this is because of the fact that they are play also students, players who are not becoming professionals in the future. So that's one reason I believe that Alex is also impressive. When it comes to disappointments, I should be very honest that I wasn't able to watch that many games, so I don't want to be that strict in my opinion when it comes to disappointments, but I don't know. Also, these problems which Piacenza has are also linked to the performance of their players. And one side question: have you tried already the new fantavolley?
Yeah. I don't have patience to fantasy games. It's like I try to understand the concept. You put a team of fantasy players, create a team, and if they perform well in the
Yeah.
round, you get most of the point, and if they do shit, you don't get that. Sorry for the word. But no, really, I notice now that Brazil have a very same concept they create, but only for Brazilians people who live there. But no, fantavolley for me. Well, I try one time. I got lucky in the first 2 weeks, then I drop it, so I leave it. But it's interesting because you can create different teams all the weeks. You can sell your players, get
Yeah,
them
that's
back,
strange.
and if you feel in this play will perform well this round. But it's a for those people who like fantasy football, like American football and baseball and all those American oriented sports, they might find this interesting. For me, I pass.
Okay. Nicola?
I lined up a team, but as Ronnie said, I'm also not so consistent in those kind of games. I mean, I pick my players and then I cross my fingers just like that, hoping they're having a good start.
Yeah, because yeah.
Yeah, continue. No, I was thinking when you mentioned the disappointment and you also mentioned the work that has been doing Alice Lagumdzija. What happened to Tommaso Rinaldi recently? I mean, he was supposed to be like the squire of Micheletto in that golden generation of Italy of 2001, and like for me, he has been underperformed. I know he's young, very young, and not everybody have the same growth that Micheletto has in the past. But if we took into consideration that he might be the fourth or might be fighting for be the fourth outside hitter in the Italy national team, I mean, it's pretty obvious that right now sometimes something isn't working for him. I mean, if Addis have to carry this Modena team like Nimir did in the past alone, because we know all the physical condition that is Erwin right now, it's very hard for a team that is being like playing well recently, but they will not stand up at the end of the season playing with only one player. At some point, Alice will say, I mean, I will I'm tired or I get injured. So yeah, and that's another player that we have to keep an eye on. Tommaso Rinaldi, for the sake of he was in the young categories. And yeah, Italy have like Stefani, for example, in Toronto, some young players that can add in the years to come to the national team. He was talking about Vitelli. He have been doing like okay. For me, it's like the Diamantini of Civitanova, maybe better because he have better serve sometimes and is more physical. Is more physical. But yeah, he sometimes shows up, sometimes don't. So that's the thing with the middle blockers in Italy. You don't have that big presence in the net. But I have to say, all of them are very smart players. So that's the key. Not being so dominant, but at least in the block defense help to have a proper counter attack. And yeah, that's one acclaration that I have to say.
Okay, I believe that was quite enough for this time. So we were not that extensive like some other times, but I believe we were quite informative for the listeners or for the spectators. So thank you for your contribution today. I believe that we can make the next episode in very early, or at least early January 2023. So also we can
To talk about the VNL tournament that Nicola likes so much. No,
yeah.
but I mean, the groups of the Olympic qualification tournament will come up this month. That will be a really interesting topic to add to our next podcast,
Yeah.
because I mean, I know Nicola doesn't like VNL because it means nothing in terms of prestige, but Olympic qualification tournament is always interesting to see the path of the favorites to the Olympiad. So yeah, let's see that, and of course, who will be the finalist in this invented World Championship that FIBB keep doing every year, in Brazil.
Surprisingly, considering who the president of the FIBB is, it's a surprise. This is held every single year in Brazil. Okay.
And of course, I want to see really if Trento learned the lesson to adapt better to the extreme hard conditions in Brazil, and let's see what happens today versus Minas, which by any means have to be a hard game. And yeah, that's all.
Okay. That's all of us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Bye bye. Until the next time.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye, guys.